Okay. I choose to participate in this folklore project. I understand that this interview will be recorded and may be posted to YouTube for educational purposes. I understand I can ask for it to be removed at any time.
Okay. So we have here Miss Alexis. You want to tell us some folklore about from where you're from?
Well, from a rural area in Tennessee, going towards the east, Smith County. I think it is best to talk about the Haint folklore that originates from the woods. A lot of traditional Southern folklore, stories, superstitions I've heard my entire life, and I have either experienced it or I've heard stories about it. Preference for this, where I'm from, people don't go by their real names, they go by nicknames. So if you hear me talking about someone named Duck or Butterturn or Buck or David Earl, just, know that you're loved by getting a nickname, okay? Okay, I have one. I'm not telling you that, but I do have one, okay? So, anyway. So, I'm going to start with defeated. You can look this up. You can go to the Goog and research this. But apparently, ages ago, I'd say probably like the 1930s, 40s, I've heard rumors that it is it was a medical helicopter. There's been rumors that it was a private helicopter. Either way, the story is the same. Is that defeated in a field somewhere out there in the difficult community, it landed in someone's hay field, and everyone from the crash died. And it was like a mom and her child and a pilot of sorts. Okay. It is rumored that if you go to defeated and you go to the difficult area and you go around midnight and you roll down all your windows and have your radio on and stall near where the crash was, your car will shut off completely and will not turn back on. It is also rumored to say that if you're stopped there, it will turn your car on. It will mess with your radio. It will do all these weird things to your car. And that's how you know you're near the spot. The part that's terrified everybody about the spot is that it is also rumored that you can hear a woman weeping when the car dies and a baby crying in the field. This was tested. It's tested every year at high schools. It's the "Are you brave enough?" It's like the scare, like let's go out to, see if this spot is true. It's our Bloody Mary, and according to some of the friends, they were like, "Yeah, it happened. It messed with my radio. I heard it. I heard the crying woman. It freaked me out." There's people who were faculty at the schools in important parts of the Smith County area that said that they have never heard anything, that has never happened. So it got enough attraction where someone did come out and interview people from the area and all this stuff. Well, a lot of people think it's a mountain lion because I have heard a mountain lion. They like to come up in the woods and they sound like a woman, violently weeping, and then they scream like a woman, like in a horror movie. And that's really scary to hear it in the woods at night because I've heard it twice, and I literally thought someone was in the woods. I heard crying and I went to go dial 911 or something because I thought something bad happened, and then the mountain lion screamed and I was scared for my life. Okay? Listen, grandmas, I'm not going to say whose grandma, but there was a grandma that thought it was also a woman, and she packaged up a tin full plate, like paper plates and was told her granddaughter to go give this woman food.
You're hearing.
Listen, thanks, Monte. Anyway, she went to go give her food, and it was a woman. It was a mountain lion, and I'll never forget her telling me that because she didn't believe me either. And then she got to the road and saw a giant cat, and it was startled, and she was startled, and they were both looking at each other. And then, you know, the grandma was like, "Get back inside. You don't need to be around that." And then, am I allowed to curse? In quotes.
Yeah.
Okay, Hell's used a lot. Said, "Hell, I thought it was a woman in distraught, not some freaking cougar. What is that?" Because they don't come out a lot. Okay, yeah. Like, I'll never forget that. So, anyway, that's one. That's like one of the most popular ones. I have a ghost story. I did not believe in like the whole like there's things in the woods. Like people call them skinwalkers. What I came across was not a skinwalker. What I was told recently is that they're considered shadow people. I didn't believe that. Okay. And like I've been in these woods like 1,000 times. Like me and my dad would always go out in the woods and just like explore. That was like a pastime we would do. And so I went to like the same spot I grew up going to my entire life with a group of friends in high school. Or no, it wasn't even high school. It was like later middle school, like so like 8th grade. And we went down there to kind of like do our thing. We usually go down there to hike, look at the pond and everything that was down there. And on this particular hike, it was in the middle of winter break. So this was probably like December, January. There was no leaves. There was no bright sun. It was cloudy. And it was a little bit wet because the leaves and the snow and stuff had melted. Me and this friend, we get down there. This dog that I had at the time decided to go with us, and it was really annoying. Loved the dog, but it was like one of those dogs that's like not going to leave you alone. And so we get down there, and I noticed that the dog had left. Like it had completely walked away from us, and it was like starting to go back up the hill to get back up to the top out of the woods. And I thought that was a little odd, but didn't think anything about it. And me and this friend, like, we're wore out. Like, if you've ever hiked steep hills, I mean, like 90-degree hills, it is not fun. And so we were sitting there catching our breaths, and we're sitting, like, on a tinier hill at the bottom of this big, like, cliff area. And there's, like, a little field next to a creek, okay? And so we're sitting there, and we're catching our breath, and we notice that what looks like a peak of sun comes through, and the sun just so happens to hit like the stump of a tree. And so we're sitting there like, why did someone hike all the way down here just to cut a tree in half? That's weird. And so we didn't think anything about it. And then the tree got a little bit taller. And we were kind of just looking at it like with our eyes were playing tricks on us because like the sun was moving, like we couldn't really understand what was happening. And then slowly before our eyes, as the sun and the clouds came back over and the sun disappeared and the tree was still there, it slowly but surely became the shadow of a man. And it was so detailed that I knew that this man had pockets. I couldn't see the pockets, but I could see his hands in the pockets. And I could see that he had a hat, like a Civil War type, like cowboy looking hat.
Yeah.
That is it. But he was completely shadowed out. No eyes, no details other than it was just like a black shadow. And I'm sitting here looking at it, and my brain, I guess, doesn't like process it, and it didn't the friend either. And we both look at each other, and we both joke. We're in middle school, okay? And we're like, we're not deers. Don't shoot us, because it was also like it's hunting season. And so our first thought was like it was just a hunting person that had just come out. But like it doesn't explain the fact that we just watched him slowly appear in front of us. Like it was still happening. And as we were sitting there, the more detailed he got. And we're both sitting there, and it's like clicks with both of us at the same time that what we're witnessing is not human. Because he sticks his hands in his pockets and moves. That's what freaked us out. So we didn't know he had his hands in his pockets, and he took them out and put them on his hips, and then kind of leaned back a little bit like he was like observing something, and he turned his head ever so slowly to like one side of the creek, and then he turned it and looked at the other side of the creek. And once that happened, we both looked at each other and said, "Did you just see a man?" And then my friend finished it, move his head to the side, and he had no eyes. And I was like, So we both got up and ran for our lives. Okay? Ran for our lives. Okay? And I have asthma. Okay? And the other friend, she hates running. Okay? We're not on the running train, but we are hightailing it out of these woods because we just realized that a shadow of a man just became in front of us out of a tree stump, and it could move. So we get to the top, and we're like catching our breath because we had made it to the top, like to the safe point. Okay? And this friend, to enter this part, there was a certain part of it that was fenced off. We were allowed to go on it, but they kept it fenced for other trespassers. We were catching our breath at the gate, and I didn't see anything. I did feel something though, like something was unsettling, but I never heard anything. But she said she did, and I believe her because we were sitting there catching our breath, and she turned around and screamed and was like, "It's coming for us!" And then like Superman jumped over the fence, to which I followed her. I asked no questions and just went. And when we finally caught our breath and we were completely cleared out of the woods, I said, "What did you see?" And she said, "I heard the revving of a truck, and I turned around, and there was a old like 1960s green Ford truck revving its engine at the top of the hill, ready to come straight for us, because it's also connected to a holler. So like we had made it to the holler area, and I believe her because I thought, like I literally thought that she was going to like pee her pants. Like she was so scared. And so that, I have never forgotten that because I didn't know how I would be able to like mistake that for something else when it became so clear. And it happened to me again. Not as scary as that, but I was telling another friend, and she was like, "I don't believe in ghosts." But she also liked the woods, so she wanted to go. And so we went in the summer. And lo and behold, we do all our same stuff. We're going back up the same humongous hill to get back out of the woods. And you'll never guess, when we look down and we're looking at the curve to go back up, what is up against a tree with its hands in its pockets with a hat, leaning there, observing the woods. And she freaked out. Of course, now I'm running again. I so much running in my life. I am running again up this hill, hating my life because I hate running. And I'm like, I'm not doing this ever again. And I remember we had to catch our breath because it was summer, it was hot, so we couldn't even make it all the way up. So we were catching our breath and we didn't see anything. But I knew it was around because a piece of wood that was cut perfectly it wasn't cut. It looked like it was like naturally broken off. But somehow, from a tinier hill, it was coming at me probably at like 50 miles per hour, something so fast that I heard it whistling, and it grazed my ear and then went down into the woods. And it was like perfectly sharp, broken off. Like if it would have hit me, it would have hurt me.
Yeah.
And there was no one else around. No one. Like I looked, and you could see there was enough, like it wasn't a super woodsy area because we were almost there, that you could see if someone was there and they would chucked it, you would see them. And I didn't see where that came from or anyone up there. Like I was like, oh, no. Yeah, this is one of those things where I don't question it and we just go. So we ran.
Yeah.
And once again, panting, like never doing it again. So that's one of the more like personal that I've experienced.
So that second time that you guys went during the summer, when, like, what year was that? Or like,
It was actually only a couple of months after that happened, because it was like the big thing at school, because no one believed us. They were like, "You're making that up. There's nothing in those woods." Because, you know, like, everyone hunts. They're like, "We ain't never seen nothing. You're making that up." Like, me and Jimmy Joe, like, we hang up in the trees all the time. Like, we'd have never seen anything like that until one of the big hunter guys who does driveways for the area, he like lays down rock and stuff, came up to where I live, and he was talking about that area where me and my dad would go, and the friends have went to go like hiking in the woods. And I heard him talking to my parents, and he said, "I ain't never going back down there. There's a haint." And that's the first time I'd ever heard the word haint in my life. I called it like a ghost or whatever. Like, I didn't know what to call it. But he called it a haint. And I was like, "What is a haint?" And he was like, "There's a haint down there." He said, "I was back there bush hogging, cutting things down for freaking old man Huddleston. And me and this other young dude, I don't even remember his name, we were sitting there trying to push back some trees, and we heard this awful screech come from the woods, and we thought it was like a mountain lion or something, you know, like we thought it was an animal. And then we looked, and all we see is a black shadow man running at us full speed ahead." And I was like, "There's no way we're talking about the same thing." And then he said, "Yeah, we thought we had saw somebody leaning up against the trees and stuff, but, you know, we didn't know if it was somebody hunting or something like that, you know, because people do that." But he was like, "No, he sure enough, he laid out this terrible yell and started chasing us, and we left our equipment and left." And where we went, there was like tires and stuff, like things left over from something. And I didn't know that it was, we call him Big Danny. Big Danny's. It was Big Danny's, like one of his spare tires or something like that from one of his like equipment that he would use to bush hog. Yeah. It's down there right now. Yeah.
Do you plan on going back ever again?
I have been.
Yeah.
Because, like, I was just curious. I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, will I see it again? And I have a friend, like, she really likes ghosts. So she's like, "Oh, I really want to, like, do this." I took her, not anything out of the ordinary. Like, it's always been my entire life. Nothing weird. Nothing like, "Oh, that's suspiciously out of place." Like, it's always been. And I went down there by myself. Probably was a dumb decision, but during COVID, there was nothing to do. Okay. And I went down there to kind of just, like, have fresh air and peace. And I never felt disturbed once, like there was something with me. And so I don't know if that's like life trying to tell me those people were not great, or not that they're bad people, they're not. It's just like, I don't know if it was trying to tell us something or what, because it was only with those two individuals. And honestly, after that, it was only a couple of months that like our relationships kind of like faded away. So like, I don't know if that's tied, but it's just, it was odd.
Yeah.
Odd.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing your stories with me and for the class as well, for the YouTube video.
Nice.
Anyway, you guys have a good day. I don't know how to end a video.